Hello and welcome to another episode of The Backspace. I'm your host, Danny J, and this week's title, Raiders of the Lost Story Arc. This week, Nelson leads the discussion with the subject of our favorite and least favorite sequels of all time. Spencer teaches us Morse code through Steel Diver. I go on and on about how awesome House of Cards is. And Brian starts off the show with a very explosive anecdote.
I had to share this little headline with you. Man nearly explodes after compressed air valve lodges in his buttocks.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was an
He
accident.
blew up. Trucker said he blew up to twice his size like a balloon.
Why was it in his buttocks in the first place?
Apparently he was working on his tractor trailer at a gas station when he slipped and fell, landing on a broken high-pressure air valve in a matter of minutes. Now, okay, if something starts shooting high-pressure air up your ass, why are you on it for a matter of minutes? Wouldn't like every instinct in your body be like to get up off of that?
You know, he was probably like, this is kind of all right. Let's see where this goes.
Maybe.
Wait, don't like it. And at that point, too late.
Was he like? But what? I don't understand. Was he working on his truck naked? Like, or did he just have his like pants down? I don't.
Wait,
how?
was this in the Deep South?
No, it was in New Zealand, actually.
Oh, I was going to say Florida, if I was going to guess. Florida man.
So
His boss and two other workers tried to pull him off the valve, but to no avail. We couldn't get him off the nipple because the angle acted like a hook.
Oh, good lord!
Welcome to having
They were
the
able to
world's
shut off
worst
the
baseball
airflow.
luck.
They were able to shut off the airflow, but the tank had already pumped half its contents into McCormick's body. Barely able to breathe, blind in one eye, and in excruciating pain, paramedics didn't arrive at the gas station for about an hour. Oh my god.
Because they were probably like, yeah, sure, that's really what's happening.
Paramedics had a difficult time treating him because of the pressure his body was under. They tried to put a drip in me, and then they pushed the needle in, and it spat right out.
That's no, that's bullshit.
I'm kind of calling that one too.
That's fucking bullshit.
It's like that scene in Big Trouble in Little China.
Little China.
Yes, yeah.
Oh my god.
I don't think that's true at all.
He had a miraculous recovery, and he didn't suffer any permanent damage.
No, see, that's technically not even possible because they always say that as soon as you get air in the bloodstream, like that's why they always caution you with high, like.
Well, technically, this wasn't in his bloodstream. They said it separated his organs, like it got into. I don't know. It wasn't actually shooting air directly into his bloodstream, just into his body cavity.
Kind of still calling bullshit on it, but it's New Zealand. Why not?
It's on the
Also-
internet, so.
Yeah, it's on the internet. It's also Reddit, and they tend to sensationalize everything. And there's not a lot of fact checking on that site until usually a couple days later. You'll find like
Yeah.
eventually somewhere in the comments will be like, yeah, this is horseshit, and this is why.
Well, the link goes to the LA Times.
Oh.
I don't know if I can trust that news. Or
LA Times sounds like Fox News.
Is it? Awesome.
I went there.
I'm not up on my Los Angeles newspapers. But the Reddit comments on this are classic.
Oh, I can imagine.
Fell. Yeah, right. Just like I fell on a cucumber I was washing in the shower.
Over and over.
Just like that internet video where the guy fell on a glass jar. You know the
Oh
one.
god, somebody linked a video to the process of skinning an animal with compressed. Okay, I'm not gonna watch that.
I saw that one. Yeah,
my God.
It's pretty brutal.
I got way too much Netflix to watch.
House of Cards.
Yeah.
So good, guys. So good.
I'm only 3 episodes in, so no spoilers, but holy crap.
Yeah, it's quite the first episode. Really, yeah, no spoilers, but
I'm about to start
Shocking.
chapter 23.
shocking. Yeah, very
So I'm
shocking.
like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 episodes in.
It's modern day Shakespeare for sure.
It's fucking
it's,
great.
It's
Yeah.
really good.
It's awesome. I've been sick all weekend, so I've just been sitting at home, and that's what I've been doing is Netflix and 3DS.
Oh, one of my recommendations for Netflix, Cowboys and Aliens.
Cowboys and Aliens.
It sounds so bad, but it's Daniel Craig, it's Olivia Wilde, and I'm sure everybody knows who she is. And it's got Harrison Ford and a few other notables whose names I can't remember right now. The guy who played the fucking no, I'm not even gonna embarrass myself. Anyway, yeah, I'd recommend watching it. It was good.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Also, Our Idiot Brother.
Yeah.
With Paul Rudd. It was good.
So we're talking about video games. Let's talk about video games.
That's the idea.
Video games.
Let's talk about your suggestion this week, Nelson. We'll go ahead and introduce your what you want to talk about.
What did I want to talk about? Oh, right. Raiders of the Lost Story arc.
There you go.
Video game sequels. The good, the bad, the forgettable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this.
Okay. So what okay, so where do you want to go with this? You want to
Well, I guess we can
talk about
probably start out with what's everybody's definition of what counts as a sequel versus serialized games versus, like Brian brought up Madden. Every year there's a new Madden. Does that count as a sequel?
I don't know if a money-generating scheme for EA really constitutes a sequel, because that's all the sports games are, is a machine like where they sell the same game year after year with a different roster as a means
but they're
of
applying
milking
that,
money.
They're applying that model. They're applying that model to all of their money-making franchises, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah.
Well, I think we can disqualify sports games just because we all hate sports games, right? Right?
Hey, come on, Baseball Stars is fantastic. Super Dodgeball, fantastic. Blades of Steel, fantastic.
Mutant League Hockey.
Okay.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Robo Baseball. Remember that one?
Yes.
That was great.
Oh, there was some... sports games were great before they tried to make them realistic. Back when they were actually games, they were super fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, they decided to start chasing this, and I'm going to put big air quotes around this, realism factor, and they went to shit.
Okay, you got me there. But either way, leaving them out of the sequel story. But yeah, what do you guys think sequels? What counts as a sequel to you?
Let me ask you this. Something like Super Mario Brothers, where the games are not connected story-wise, but thematically they're all similar, and they all share the same universe and same characters. Do those count as sequels?
Yeah, you can take that one step further and say, like, Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy. I mean, Final Fantasy games share, at best, a loose kind of tie with each other.
Yeah,
are those...
Well, same with Zelda games. I mean, you have Link and Zelda, and maybe Ganon.
Yeah, those are the only commons. Those are the only common threads between them.
Now, to throw a monkey wrench into the Zelda thing, they published an official timeline. It's stupid, but it's official.
Oh, it's official now?
Yeah, they published it in that Hyrule Historia. And I think, in a way, it cheapens the mythos, because I kind of liked that they were not necessarily connected, and that when there were links between them. See what I did there?
Yeah.
And then
gotcha.
You have other series. Sorry, you have other series that basically the only thing that ties them together are the mechanics. Like you think about the Total War series of strategy games.
Yep.
I mean, the only thing in common between those is the fact that there's war in all of them.
Yeah, war never changes from sequel to sequel.
I mean, video games are kind of interesting as well because you have the possibility of kind of side stories or genre changes. I mean, I'm thinking of Fallout in this one, where you had the first two Fallouts were very straight-ahead role-playing games, top-down isometric, and then the Fallout Tactics came along. And is that a sequel or is that kind of a side story? I mean, because it kind of continues the same. It's in the same world. It involves some of the same characters. It involves a lot of the same sort of organizations and stuff like that. So yeah, defining our terms.
Yeah, because at the time, Fallout Tactics was canonical, wasn't it? It wasn't until Fallout 3 that they pulled it from the canon, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a good... Then you have things where they're obviously sequels, like Mass Effect's a good example of this, where it's one continuing story arc through the entire thing.
Direct continuity of story. I mean, those are the easy ones, right? Like Dead Space as well is another example where the story goes, like you actually end up with a multi-segmented story.
And the same thing, there's a couple of Final Fantasy games that have official sequels. So you have this thing where all the numbered entries are all unrelated, but then you have sequels to individual numbered entries to make it even weirder. Like Final Fantasy IV has an official sequel on the Wii.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy X had 10-2.
And then you get into branches with Final Fantasy as well. You have Final Fantasy Tactics. You have Final Fantasy MMOs. You know, I think there's.
Then you have Final Fantasy 12, which had a shared universe between Tactics and Vagrant Story, because they all take place in the same universe. So then it gets even weirder. So.
All right, Dan, what do you think?
Me? Oh, sheesh. my personal opinion on sequels is, I mean, I generally like to go back to an old game if I like it. I can't really pull a sequel out of that, out of the universe right now and think of something that I thought it was much better than the original game, except maybe Mass Effect 2 was better, just because it added some more mechanics to the game that I liked.
I would say Assassin's Creed 2. The first one was an interesting proof of concept and with some very flawed fundamentals. And the second one built on it in pretty much every way possible. I mean, Mass Effect and Assassin's Creed are two of the games that are like that, where there is mechanical improvements as well as a refinement. When they see something is popular enough, they put more effort into developing it.
I just thought of one in particular that stands out in my mind. Is you take Donkey Kong, the original arcade game, which was a sea change for arcade games at the time, and that had multiple boards, and it had a definitive conclusion. I mean, it looped around at the end, but, you had those four boards, and at the end you saved Paulina, and it just restarted. You had Donkey Kong Jr., which was recognizable as a Donkey Kong game. Many of the original mechanics were still there, but they added a whole bunch more, like the ability to sidestep from vine to vine or rope to rope. So there was like a mechanical, like they took the mechanics of the original, added new mechanics to it, and a new protagonist, and it was very clearly a sequel that improved upon the formula in a lot of ways. So that's probably a good example of where there was like a clear evolution in the series.
It is a good point. I mean, when you think about it, it is kind of carrying on with the lineage and the loose story, if there really was one, for Donkey Kong. Basically, it's like taking the original Donkey Kong and then going to another storyline where his son has to save Donkey Kong, things like that. Like, for me, I don't know, sequelizations basically is like, not necessarily if you just throw a number onto the title, but for me, it kind of has to somehow carry along with the storyline, even loosely.
So then, does Mario Kart count as a sequel to Donkey Kong then? Like, does Paper Mario RPG count as a sequel to Donkey Kong?
I gotta ask, why do they keep inviting Bowser to these races? That guy's a jerk.
I mean, they put everything aside. It's just about the race at that point. Yeah.
Well, it's just like also Mega Man as well. Was Mega Man, by some loose definition, a serialized game, a sequelized game? Was there progression in story?
They're all linked in Mega Man. I mean, if you go Mega Man 1 through 6, the original NES ones, they all had a loose chronology, or they all had a chronology. Not that it mattered, because those games were all about the gameplay. Nobody cared about the storyline because they were real dumb. It was just,
I'm just gonna pew 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 the things.
Dr. Wily made 8 robots. Go kill them, and then fight Wily. Every single game was exactly the same. I think they threw a twist into one of them where there was like Dr. Cossack, except in the end you find out that his daughter was kidnapped by Wily, and he was doing it to try to save her or something. But no one cared.
Yeah. Well, how about like with Metroid?
Clear chronology there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about spiritual sequels? So I'm going to go back to Mega Man, and maybe you've been following the Kickstarter project about Mighty Number 7, the original creator of the character designer for Mega Man.
Mighty Number 9?
Mighty Number 9, that's the one. It's Mighty Number 9. What are your thoughts on that, Spencer?
I'm looking forward to it. Huge fan of the classic Mega Man games. I'd love to see a return to form. And that's a really interesting one because this Capcom has shown they have no interest in continuing that franchise, which is kind of sad because it was looking for a while there like we were going to get a 3DS sequel to Legends, which was a great game, or I guess a sequel to Legends 2. When they dropped it, Capcom all but said this franchise is dead, and so it looks like we're going to get, a true follow-up. It might not have the same characters, but they're close enough. I mean, Beck and Call, Rock and Roll, pretty much the same. With a new coat of paint.
All right. Well, now that we've kind of loosely established what we sort of maybe consider to be sequels, I was just thinking, we could probably discuss what you guys think are good versions of sequels, bad sequels that you can remember, or bad segments of sequels, and just shit that you can straight up forget.
Well, I got one. Straight up bad sequels, everything after Sonic 2.
I can get on.
Glad someone brought that up.
Terrible.
Although, have you heard of Sonic Boom?
Is that real? I don't know if that's
it's a real thing. Sonic Boom is a game they're putting out for Wii U and 3DS. They're going to make a 52-episode TV series out of it. They're going to start making merch.
Okay.
Yeah, it's supposedly going to be a real thing.
I wonder how much of that is, though, like, my opinion of it is because I was just a kid when I played it, if it was designed specifically for my generation, and and I look at the Sonics now and I just go, what the fuck?
Well, they've changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to be the same, to be honest. But I don't know. It's new Sonic games to play.
I'll play them.
It's a thing.
The thing is, like, Sonic is very much a product of the 90s, and that character is sort of was the edgy alternative to Mario. And I don't think that style of character really aged very well because the whole 90s edginess just seems pretty silly now.
Do you remember the cartoon series?
Yes, unfortunately, I do remember the cartoon.
I have a little sister, so yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. They're changing things up. I don't know if they're going to try and keep them edgy or not. It's kind of a wait and see for me.
I think any Sonic game has to be a wait and see because they've been so abysmally bad in the last few years. I will see. Maybe it'll be good. Maybe I'll own a Wii U at that point. I don't know.
It sounds like they're trying to really appeal to the younger market again to try and revive that original series, and
it's a Wii U exclusive, so any help they can get is they need it.
Totally.
Yeah, that system not doing so good.
Well,
it's a shame because it's really the only true games console this generation. It seems like everything else is a $500 Netflix box that happens to also play videos.
Yeah. I don't know, some good game sequels that I've played. I can easily bring up Assassin's Creed. For me, the first was an interesting game. Like Brian had mentioned, it's a good proof of concept, and it had its moments where it was just painfully bad to play. But as you moved on into the storyline and the each subsequent release, Brotherhood was fantastic. Revelations, contrary to popular opinion, is my favorite.
Wow.
And that's when it started to take a real nosedive. Assassin's Creed 3 was just not good. Assassin's Creed 4, I know very little about it, if it still carries on the original story arc or not, or if they wrapped it up and they're kind of starting.
AC4 is really good. AC4 is really good.
I saw Brian play it over Christmas break, and if it wasn't $59 still, I would have bought that one. Yeah.
It's definitely a return to form for the series. Like after 3, and I own 3. I haven't actually played it yet, but
I got about 40% in and gave up.
Yeah, I just bought it. I bought it when it was on a Steam sale because I just wanted to be a completist. I picked up Revelations and Assassin's Creed 3 when they were on sale in the winter sale. But Assassin's Creed 4 I got that for free when I got my video card, and I've played a lot of that one, and it's really good.
I'll bring up another one actually. Not Saints Row. Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
That counts as a sequelized game, yes?
Yeah, well, they're all in the same universe. I mean, some of them have direct calls back to each other as well.
Yeah, that's another one that gets interesting with kind of side stories and stuff like that, because technically Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas are technically kind of one unit, right?
That's how much it is to...
Like,
now,
Grand Theft Auto 4 kind of goes on from that, and then you have Grand Theft Auto 4 and you have Gay Tony and Lost and Damned. And then Grand Theft Auto 5, and that's not even counting like the mobile versions. There was like PSP games that came out, and Chinatown Wars, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Liberty City Stories. Yeah. Those are
Yeah.
Now,
So,
going back to those, I'm sure you guys have played most of them. I've, again, said before, I've never really played the whole GTA series, or really any of them. Taking a general consensus, which games did you guys think were the best of that whole series versus the
I'd say
forgettable?
San Andreas. Yeah,
San
for
Andreas.
sure.
San Andreas is my favorite of them all, I think, yeah.
Yeah, 5 is really good, but I think San Andreas still tops it for me.
Yeah.
And you know what? I love the atmosphere of Vice City, but going back and playing that game now is a chore.
It's very tedious. The helicopter missions are just forget it. I throw my controller in disgust when I play that one. It's too brutal.
I love
it's
the music
hard.
in that game, though. I love the music.
Yeah. That was really a remarkable game for the time because it really pushed the PS2 to its to what it's capable of. And, it was really good. Really pretty game.
Did it also cause some like controversy as well, as far as like violence in games and things like that?
They all have, yeah.
They all
I don't think there's a single one of those that hasn't had some controversy wrapped up in it.
Yeah,
Hot
especially
coffee.
the hot coffee thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about Saints Row?
Saints Row is an interesting one. That you look at that franchise, and it started out as a GTA Me Too, and then just descended into absolute insanity.
Yeah. For the sake of insanity. And it was
And I think that game got better as it got crazier.
Well, I only played 3, so which have you guys played? Have you guys gone all the way through?
I've played a bit of the first one. I played the second one all the way through. I played the third one all the way through. I haven't actually played the fourth one yet, but from what I've seen of that, videos and stuff like that,
it looks bonkers.
It just turns the crazy up to 11. I mean,
I just like how tongue in cheek it is. Like they actually have actors who playing themselves in the game. I don't understand. Like they got Hey Ash, what you playing? That they're actual playable characters in that game. And
wow,
yeah. For me, I think the high point of that game was when I bought that game on launch day and I was playing it and the girlfriend was kind of looking over my shoulder, and at one point I whipped out the big 6-foot-long purple dildo and started beating people to death with it. And she just kind of rolled her eyes and walked away. I was like,
as you would.
Yeah, I was like, what am I doing with my life here?
It's one of those moments. Yeah.
How about you, Spencer?
Funny.
I've played 3 and 4, and I've enjoyed them both. I mean, I think 3 was a tighter game all around. I think 4 felt a little rushed, but they made it so much more over the top and insane. I mean, you have superpowers in this game.
Well, 4 was supposed to be an expansion pack, wasn't it?
Originally, yes.
Originally, yeah, and then they fleshed it out considerably. Like, it is a long game. There's certainly no shortage of content. I feel less compelled to finish it. Whereas with 3, I really wanted to see it through to the end. I think 4, fine. I just stalled out and I haven't picked it up again. So it's still a great game. It brings a lot to the table in terms of abilities for your character, and the freedom of movement in it is just insane. Like, you don't need vehicles in this game. They will actually slow you down because you could super sprint and jump over buildings and run up the sides of buildings and fly around, and it's bonkers, completely bonkers. But I'm enjoying it. I mean, that franchise. I think, Brian, you're right in that it got better when they decided that they were going to differentiate themselves by being completely over the top and not taking themselves seriously.
The first one is very straightforward Grand Theft Auto type game. Like you're a member of a street gang. They add in some sort of rudimentary like territory type stuff like they did in San Andreas, but it's pretty straight ahead. It's just like we're a gang, they're a gang, let's go shoot them kind of thing. And then the second one added in like the streaking mini games and like the shit truck ones where you drove around in this manure spreader.
Oh my God.
Blasting manure all over like businesses and stuff like that. And that one was crazy. But the third one is where they really went full retard basically in the third one.
So you can't really say that there was even really a bad game in the whole series.
The first one was not great. Like honestly, the first one was not that great. It was buggy. Like it was one of the early Xbox titles. Like back when you couldn't get a Grand Theft Auto game on the Xbox 360, I think it was. Was it the 360 that the first Saints Row came out for?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. You couldn't really get a Grand Theft Auto game on the 360, so they kind of moved into that market very early in the launch cycle. And I don't know. It felt rushed. It was really buggy, and it it had some interesting voice talent and some the story wasn't bad, but it just wasn't quite there. Huh. And then the second one just started getting really crazy, and the third one just went completely over the top. And like I said, I haven't played the fourth one yet, but from all indications, it's just the same. Like
nice.
It continues that upward trajectory of insanity.
This what just popped into my head was Ace Combat. That's a franchise that's been running since the PS1, and for the most part, most of the games take place in the same universe. They don't take place on Earth. They take place on a fictionalized world that's very similar to ours. You can tell which countries are placeholders for which real countries are in there. But that's a series I think, while most of the games played exactly the same way, the gameplay was solid enough. Like it was an arcade flying game, and the gameplay was solid enough. They didn't need to add too much to it. And then with each successive sequel, they just played with how they presented the storyline. And I think they did a pretty good job of it. Like, especially in the PS2 era, you had 3 really solid games. You had 4, 5, and 0. And each of them was radically different in how they presented the storyline to you. Like in 4, the entire game is being told from the point of view of a child in an occupied city, or in a city occupied by your enemy. So you're seeing the entire storyline from his point of view. In 5, you're seeing it more or less from the view of the nameless pilot that you're flying as. But it's all told through this sort of pseudo-Norse mythology. Like everything's being viewed through this, like, everything's linking back to this ancient storyline that you're somehow fulfilling as you're playing the game. And then 0 was told through interviews with people many, many years after the conflict who were talking about your exploits. So it's interesting in that they all link together. They all take place in the same world. Very similar gameplay, but then there's radically different ways of presenting the storyline to the player. And I think each one of them worked just as well as the other. They all managed to take a very, very, like, game that isn't, or a style of game that wouldn't necessarily be a good way to present a storyline in the first place, because it is an arcade flying and shoot.
Fly and shoot.
Yeah, it doesn't have a ton of depth to the gameplay itself, but then wrapping these like epic, world-shattering stories into it, and deeply emotional stories by presenting them in these unique ways to the player. And unfortunately, that series sort of fell apart with the last couple entries. But hopefully we'll see a return to form at some point, because those were all bestsellers. All of those got the red box, greatest hits releases on the PS2. So they were doing something right back then.
So that's kind of like a game where it started out really strong, started to fall off a little bit after a while, I guess.
Well, it was more they just put out one really dumb sequel on the PS3 and Xbox 360 that
spoiled it all.
Well, it did. It took, before they had a lot of freedom to tell whatever story they wanted, because it didn't take place in our world. There was no Russia or USA. It was all these made-up countries. And then they decided that they wanted to chase the Call of Duty money, and they created the dumbest Russia versus USA scenario since Call of Duty 4. And it just ended up completely ruining the franchise. And then they tied it in with a bunch of terrible gameplay mechanics and just dumbed the whole thing down for the Call of Duty audience. And it's kind of sad to see, such a great series kind of go down in flames like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Hey, Brian.
Yeah.
What sequelized games are on your mind?
I wanted to actually discuss a couple of things about sequels that were kind of occurring to me as I was thinking about this topic. And do we count, what are you guys' feelings on counting spiritual sequels? And with this, I'm thinking about System Shock, BioShock Infinite.
Now they shared a development team, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, there was some
Spectre, right?
Yeah, it was different publishers or whatever, so they couldn't use the name. I believe that was the case.
I think it totally counts.
Yeah,
Ken Levine for BioShock, but yeah.
Oh yeah, Ken Levine, that's right.
Because I know that System Shock was tied up in licensing hell for a long time. It only recently appeared on GOG, and I think for a long time they didn't know who actually owned the rights to that game.
Right.
It had changed hands so many times, and there was a lot of really complex licensing there. So it stands to reason that when BioShock came around, they were like, well, we want to do something that's a spiritual successor, but we can't use the name. And we're going to go in a radically different direction in terms of aesthetic and story. Yeah, it totally counts.
Yeah.
Especially with Infinite, with Infinite's upcoming DLC, or actually, I guess they've released all their DLC now. I'm not sure, but it's kind of trying to tie it back into the original BioShock.
Well, that brings up kind of an interesting point. So they loop back BioShock Infinite to say that it's like a sort of a setting off point for the original BioShock, right?
Mm-hmm. It seems like
DLC?
yeah. I've never played it, so.
So, I mean, is there a way that we could loop back maybe BioShock to say that it's like some kind of formative thing for System Shock and have the sequels actually appearing in reverse order?
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
The chronological release dates of these things are actually the opposite of how they. I don't know. Anyways.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like the
series,
whole Zelda thing. I mean, it's kind of all over the place, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if we're counting those as sequels, they kind of go backwards. Like the release date is backwards from the chronological dates that all of those games take place in, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, System Shock is in the future. BioShock was set in the 60s, and BioShock Infinite was back in the 19th century.
1890s, yeah.
I mean, sequels don't necessarily have to go forward in time.
No, especially not with a universe like that, I guess. But
whatever works for them, I guess.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to bounce off you guys is how we feel about reboots. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that filmically lately. I'm thinking of Total Recall, RoboCop.
Yeah. And the way that our tone right now is just like, oh god, here we go again. And I think there is a danger in the gaming industry of repeating that sort of is there not an original idea out there? It's a danger, but I think there's actually more demand. As we talked about earlier about the PS2 games or remaking a lot of those games, and it's coming to Kickstarter to make that happen.
Right.
I think there is a demand for it.
I think there's actually a justifiable case to be made for it in the case of video games. Like in terms of films, the ways that films tell stories don't really necessarily evolve that much over the history of films, right? Like you project it on a screen, people sit down in a chair and watch it. With games, the technology is always moving forward. We have new interface devices, we have new refinements on gameplay and stuff like that. So something like Devil May Cry, for example, which recently got a reboot. XCOM was another one that I thought of recently that has
Tomb
been
Raider.
Sort of rebooted from the ground up. Tomb Raider, exactly.
You're using good examples here.
SimCity was another one where they went back to just calling it SimCity and may have salted the earth for that franchise forevermore with release. But
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I think there's a good case to be made for actually reboots in video games actually being a good thing. We're sort of.
Going back, we're kind of in that point of gaming history where we all kind of started out with the early systems, and as things as the years pass by, we've experienced certain games and certain stories and certain characters and whatnot, and eventually the series fizzled out. And I guess in one aspect, it's possible that a lot of the game developers or whatever are trying to just revive it to have something to sell us. And it's starting to go the same with like even people who started out with the original Xbox. Like they may start rehashing some of those old games to try and reboot them and again have a product to sell.
Well, yeah, you see all kinds of HD remixes now and stuff like that coming out. HD remake of certain games and stuff like that. So, I think there's definitely a better case to be made for that sort of thing as the technology moves forward.
There's also the case of just cutting the baggage of a franchise. If you look at something like Devil May Cry or Tomb Raider or what are some other ones that came out this year that were just, clean slates, basically clean starts, is you have these, continuing storylines that maybe you just can't do anything with anymore, or in making a new game, you'd be way too hamstrung by everything that's happened in that universe beforehand. I feel like a clean start is a way of presenting these characters perhaps in a new light or in a new way without impacting the existing works that have already been put out. Just saying, like, it's time that we just cut the baggage. We want to make a new Tomb Raider game. We don't necessarily want to be bogged down in the existing storylines we've been told or that we've told so far. So let's give it a reboot and start over.
The J.J. Abramsification of video games.
Yeah. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, I enjoyed that Tomb Raider game. I feel like giving that character a fresh start was probably the right way to go.
Bringing it back to Sonic Boom, for example, again, that's a reboot that could potentially go wrong, or, well, speculatively will most likely go wrong. But, I mean, you guys used a bunch of great, strong examples for reboots as well. So reboots, by and large, I think are a good thing. Because it's stories that, or characters or games that we've held dear to our hearts in the past that now they're re-releasing or continuing on or building on. And at that point, it's like, fuck yeah, I'd finally get to continue on with something I enjoyed in my past.
I think the danger for these companies is when you start fresh, like you take a franchise that is well loved, and SimCity is a perfect example of this. You take a franchise that is loved universally, and you release a game just called SimCity, and it's fucking terrible.
Completely broken.
What are the chances? Well, yeah. What are the chances that this will ever get a sequel? Like, it looks to me like that franchise is likely dead in the water because that game, putting aside all of the issues they had at launch with it not working, isn't a good game. And it's generally recognized by everyone that the map is too small. It's just not fun to play. So where do they go from here? Do they do a SimCity 5 next?
I think it's a risk. It's definitely a risk trying to reboot a franchise or a series because, you could completely fuck it up and just destroy it forevermore.
A very beloved franchise that's dear to our hearts. Yeah, Dungeon Keeper.
Oh, God.
Dungeon Keeper, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That sound you hear is me shedding a single tear for Dungeon Keeper.
One tear only, yeah. But it's on GOG, if you want it.
Yeah.
So it was free on GOG this weekend, actually.
Yeah, wasn't that cool? I saw that. I thought, bravo. It's good to see. Good to see reveling in the controversy and making that happen.
So we want to wrap this up by maybe talking about some of our favorite sequels and some of our least favorite sequels.
Sure. Okay.
All right. Who wants to go first?
Let's start with Dan.
I got something in mind, or whoever.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Favorite sequels? Sequels. Well, I mean, I'd have to. GTA 5 was definitely one of my favorites. Last year, I guess. I did actually get a kick out of Final Fantasy 14, but that's an MMO. What else? Yeah. New Leaf, of course. Animal Crossing New Leaf. I would say that's a sequel in many ways to the No Friendo Lame Cube version. Bad sequels. Well, I mean, I already talked about Sonic, and so yeah, I just like you guys. I just to reiterate, like I'm very fearful about the reboots that are coming up, and I just hope that the Kickstarters that have the best interests, like sometimes they'll have like the original developers, and they'll actually have a philosophy instead of it's sort of going back to the roots of the game, you know, like developed in a garage rather than by a committee, a la EA. So yeah, I mean, most of the games I'm looking forward to this year, other than Stick of Truth, are independent games. So that's my thoughts on the whole thing.
Right. Right. I wanted to talk about. I think my favorite sequel of all time is probably Mass Effect 2.
Shocker.
Just because it was such like it took a world that I was really invested in the first game and just improved just about everything about it. But I think when you look at the Mass Effect series, there's an interesting trajectory there. Where the first game is kind of it's good, but it's flawed. The second one I thought was the pinnacle of that series, and the third one was kind of a rushed cash in that capped off the story in a way a lot of people didn't like. So, you know, it kind of has its high point in the middle, and I guess that kind of works for me. And when you kind of view the series as a whole. In terms of my least favorite sequels, probably Deus Ex: Invisible War.
Ooh.
Just because that one was such a misfire. It was just so bad. You take everything that was good about the first Deus Ex and turn it into that game. I really don't know what the hell was going through their heads. But the arc on that series is interesting as well, because you have a game. The first game is regarded as a high point in PC game, and the second one is derided as this console cash-in that basically turned its back on everything that made the first one good. And
it may have
the
been
most
the origin
recent
of the
game,
term consolitis as well.
yeah,
I kind
exactly.
of believe it came out around the same time. Like that term aired around the time that Invisible War came out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first one you can point to that says this is a PC game that PC gamers loved that was absolutely just destroyed in order to make it console friendly. And the most recent Deus Ex game that I played, I really, really enjoyed that game. And I think that was a good return to form. It wasn't everything that made the first one great, but it was really, really good. And it's I thought it was kind of a promising thing for how the series can go forward in this era. Boss battles aside, the boss battles in that game are pretty terrible. Yeah, but aside from that, it was definitely a much tighter experience than Invisible War. In terms of sequels that I'm really looking forward to, I'm interested to see what they do with Dragon Age next.
Mm-hmm.
Dragon Age Inquisition looks like it's going to be interesting, and that one has the same kind of arc. Oops, sorry, hang on. That was my phone.
Do you have an ice cream truck in your apartment?
No.
Oh.
No. That's just the phone. Sorry. Anyways, as I was saying, Dragon Age. I'm interested to see where that one goes, because it could have the same kind of arc as Deus Ex, with the first game being, sort of a high watermark, the second one being reviled as a terrible cash-in, and the third one's kind of reestablishing the course of the game. But that remains to be seen. Another one that I'm really looking forward to, and I hope gets made. I've heard, I've heard that this one's coming out. The next Homeworld game, which is called Homeworld Shipbreakers.
That'd be fantastic. And if Yes does the soundtrack again, I'm all aboard.
Yeah. I love the Homeworld games. And,
I loved it too. Yeah,
I really hope we get those.
Yeah, that's one of those franchises that's just been like I don't know anyone who's played those games that hasn't loved them. So they've got a lot to live up to with this new one, if it gets made at all.
Yeah. I think is there a Kickstarter or something? I'm just looking at the wiki page right now. Gearbox has granted Blackbird Interactive, a studio employing members of the original Homeworld development team, permission to use the Homeworld IP. They were making basically a spiritual successor, but actually Gearbox granted them the rights to use the IP, and so they were originally just making a game called Hardware Shipbreakers, and now it's being retitled to Homeworld Shipbreakers.
Okay, there's a Homeworld Touch that's being released for the iOS.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There's actually, I've been hearing actually that there's going to be HD remakes of Homeworld and Homeworld 2 coming out sometime in the next little while, just to kind of build some excitement for that as well. Because those games are impossible to find on any of the download services. They're not on GOG, they're not on Steam.
Even the underground places are difficult. Yeah.
Please just give me.
I'm lucky enough to still have my box copy of Homeworld 2, so.
I have Homeworld and Homeworld 2. I don't have Cataclysm though, and that just kills me. I really want to play Cataclysm again, and I cannot find it anywhere. I can't find legitimate backup copies that you download off the internet from places like Pirate Bay. Can't find any torrents of Cataclysm, but yeah, I've still got my box copies of Homeworld and Homeworld 2. So hopefully Shipbreakers is going to be good.
Cool. Thanks, Brian.
Your turn, Dan.
I just went.
Dan already went.
Oh, fuck.
Your turn, Nelson.
I don't know.
Tell you my favorite sequel of all time.
Sure.
Of all time. It's probably Super Mario World. Because it's an example of where it's just there was a slow, steady evolution of game mechanics. Starting with Mario Brothers 1, then 3, and then World. And 2, I don't really count 2 because the Japanese Mario Brothers 2 was so similar to the original Mario Brothers that it almost felt like a side story. It was just like the super hard version of Mario Brothers or Super Mario Brothers. So, but you saw a clear evolution of mechanics from 1 to 3 to World, and World was just at the time, it was one of the best looking games I'd ever played. It was a system seller. Like everyone saw those commercials on TV, and it looked so vibrant and colorful and crisp. And then when you played it was tight. And they introduced like a whole bunch of new mechanics without breaking the old mechanics. So they added Yoshi and the cape and
going behind the cage, walking around the cage in the back like that.
Oh like
remember that you
could
punch,
flip the thing around.
Yeah, you could punch bad guys. Like That's
Mario has kind of an interesting sequel thing going on itself, doesn't it? Like, because Super Mario Brothers 2 was not a Mario game originally, right?
Yeah, it was something else in Japan.
Doki Doki Panic.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was a disc system game. What's funny though is they released the North American Super Mario Brothers 2 as Mario Brothers USA in Japan on a pink cartridge.
Wow.
Kind of interesting. Yeah.
Well, that's why they put it out in North America, because they said the actual Super Mario Brothers 2 was too hard for North Americans.
That's right. Yeah, I heard
the
that.
one that was developed in Japan, it was too hard for North American players, so they put out something that was like easier.
Could you imagine kids playing that shit nowadays? There'd be so many broken LCD TVs at home.
Oh god. Yeah, I actually played some Sonic 2 this weekend, and man, that game is pretty unforgiving.
If you're going fast, it's great, but as soon as you hit a block, it's like, oh my god,
well,
all my coins.
Right? You gotta go fast.
That's right.
Gotta go fast.
Blast processing, man.
Yeah.
It's all about the blast processing.
Nintendo don't.
Did you ever make any Sega cartridge buying decisions based on how many megs the cartridge was?
No.
No.
I bet
they used to put that on the front of the box. It's like, this is, what was it, like Strider was like the first 4 megabyte cartridge or something like that? Or,
oh, right.
I can't remember.
It's got more megs. I gotta get that.
It's clearly better because it's got more megs.
Got more megabits. More megabits means more gameplay, right?
Just line it up at Consumers Distributing to pick that up. And yeah.
Remember that story, yeah.
Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that story. You had to go to the counter and tell them what you wanted, and they went in the back and got it for you.
Mm-hmm.
God, I remember that story.
Remember those days?
Consumers, man. I remember that shit.
I love that place.
I got my Sega Master System at Consumers Distributing.
Yeah, I had my NEC, my TurboGrafx 16. Consumers Distributing.
God.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually a 16-bit processor, you know that, right?
No, it was two 8-bit
parallel processors.
Put together and they do swap whatever. They swap something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonk's Revenge, man. That's all I can say. That game is awesome.
There were a lot of good games in that system. It's too bad it never really caught on.
Military Madness.
Military Madness was brilliant, and the little cartridges, like little cards, like
I know those were the best.
They were great. Just they're incredible.
It just Splatterhouse, and there were some great games.
Oh yeah,
dude, Splatterhouse was great.
Not really. Actually, it wasn't really that great, but it was very violent.
I'm thinking of when
you could hit guys with the bat, and they would go flying into the background. It was awesome.
When I was a kid, that game was the shit.
Because it had blood. You're like, whoa, blood.
I picked up a really interesting. I picked up this really interesting game a while back called Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti for the Famicom, and it's a super deformed Splatterhouse game. It's super cute, and it's for the Nintendo Famicom.
It's chibi.
And it's like download a ROM of this game. It is crazy.
All right.
It's got a full blown Michael Jackson dance scene in it at one point, like a mini boss gets up on stage and does the Thriller routine, and the music, like the notes have been changed ever so slightly to avoid copyright problems. It's hilarious.
I gotta get it
because they already had a Michael Jackson Moonwalker game out there.
Yeah.
I sure did. I remember that.
That game just gets better with time, I'm sure.
Oh, good.
Like a fine wine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I guess that's everything.
Well, Nelson hasn't talked about his favorite sequels yet.
I kind of mentioned them. I mean, all time Assassin's Creed Revelations, second runner-up or close runner-up Brotherhood, Hitman Absolution versus the original Hitman games. I mean, that's like a fine wine, gets way better with age. Mostly because graphically and control-wise, but still a good game throughout. But Absolution was by far my favorite. Could even go as far as saying Tribes Ascend, which, granted, I haven't really played the original Tribes. Still, comparatively to actually, no, wait. No, I did play one of the.
Tribes 2 was the better game, to be honest, but Ascend was very accessible, which is something that the original Tribes games weren't necessarily. That's one of those ones where the means of movement in the original game that everyone... It's like in Mario Kart DS, like snaking. If you don't know how to snake, you're not going to have any fun online, and that's not necessarily something they built. They didn't build it that way. It's just how it ended up. That snaking was the fastest way to get around a track was very much like skiing in the first Tribes game. It was a glitch. But you had to do it if you wanted to succeed in that game.
Yeah.
Whereas Ascend built it in and made it a core game mechanic and did a really good job of explaining it to the players. It's too bad that game is dead now because it had a lot of promise.
All right. Do we want to talk real quick about game releases coming up this month and news? Maybe we can talk about a little bit about news. Okay, game releases coming up. Yeah, did you guys know that South Park Stick of Truth has gone gold?
Fucking hell.
Yes, I heard that.
Yep. 4th of March coming out. Did you guys see the 10-minute opening sequence of it?
I watched it and I laughed my ass off.
I thought it was an episode of South Park, and
I watched. There's a really good Giant Bomb video where they do like half an hour.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's really good.
It is really
Trey
good.
were very heavily involved with this release,
right?
So
yeah, they are, and you can tell just with every single part of the mechanic. Even is just. It does feel like an episode.
Looks like you're playing a South Park episode.
And actually, I was kind of worried about that because, like, okay, well, how much time do these guys have to devote to it, and is it going to be short? But according to Brad on Giant Bomb, it's quite in depth. Like, you can even go up to Canada at one point. So. I'm definitely looking forward to this one.
But only Ottawa, I'm guessing.
There was only one road, so in downtown Canada. That's right.
Highway 1.
That's right. Let's see what else is coming out. Well, of course, Titanfall is coming out in 2 weeks on the 11th of March. Everyone's kind of looking for that.
I'm getting less excited about that one the more coverage I watch.
6 versus 6. People are really raging about that. Limited to 6 versus 6. I don't really. I mean, okay, I guess so. I don't know. I'm not too big on the first person shooters anymore. I'm just not as good as them as I used to be. So
Yeah, no single player on that one.
no.
It kind of bites. Apparently, campaign is going to be all played in multiplayer arenas, but it looks fast. It looks fun. But it looks like Call of Duty multiplayer with mechs, basically.
Yeah. I think I'm going to wait and see on that. For
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, me too.
for sure. All right.
Steel
what
Diver
else
is
we got?
out. Go check it out. It's out now on
Yeah.
the eShop, and it's super fun. It's a submarine first-person shooter. It's very slow-paced, and like it's more about position and tactics than it is about twitch. Super fun. Get on there and play it. Type out some Morse code. It's
Yeah.
free. You got nothing to lose.
And that's on the 3DS store.
Yeah, that's right. It's on the 3DS
Cool.
eShop, and it's
Okay, right now.
it's free. The entire game is free. If you pay $10, you unlock a bunch of other subs, but there's not really. They just have they're not necessarily better than the two default ones you get. They're just different. So it's not really pay to win. But yeah, it's got a lot of customization, and it's super fun. Like really simple game, but they hit it out of the park with it.
Cool.
So has anybody heard about the upcoming game Matador?
No, I haven't heard of that.
Really? How is that possible?
Well, tell us, Nelson.
It's kind of a isometric battle mech, roguelike-ish type game. It was a Steam Greenlight game, and it just got successfully greenlit not that long ago, I don't think. But yeah, if you fire up Steam, go to Greenlight, search for Matador. I mean, just watch the opening trailer, and you'll probably want to buy the game. Basically,
That looks
you're
a little bit like Final Zone.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But basically, the whole purpose of the game is you're in a mech, and you have to destroy all the robots and everything in that city in one night. Yeah, it's got a really great 90s synth-lace soundtrack. I mean, hell, it's got fucking mechs, man. Like, what more could you want?
Okay, I'm all over that.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
I'm watching the trailer now. It looks a lot like Final Zone, which is a good thing because I love Final Zone. So
Yeah, for me, that's a buy-on release, really. And oddly enough, like that's typically not my type of game, but that one, I don't know. There's just something about it that makes me really want to own it.
Right. Dark Souls 2 is coming out in about a month.
that's right.
A little
Cool.
under a month.
That's going to
Yeah.
be on PC as well as 360 and PS3. Is that right?
Not day and date. Not day and date. They haven't actually announced a PC version yet, or they haven't announced a release date. They announced that there's going to be one, but they haven't said when it's going to drop. So it looks like
Sometime
looks like
2014.
consoles. It's actually coming out. I think it's coming out for the Xbox 360 and PS3, though. Let me just double check that. I don't think it's coming out for the brand new consoles yet.
I think what we're seeing now is sort of the twilight of those systems. Like if you remember, the PlayStation 2 got some of its best releases after the PS3 had come out. You've got things like Persona 4. You got there was a whole bunch of games that came out, and some of them, yeah. I mean, it seems like we're gonna because Persona 5 is coming out on the PS3, and it's not. It's like a year away. Kind of interesting to see that.
I want to
I'm on the webpage right now, and yeah, they list the PS3, Xbox 360, and PC as their SKUs.
So this just announced that Gearbox they are not going to make Borderlands 3, at least not yet.
Whoa.
Yeah, but they are doing 2 new Gearbox IPs, and Randy Pitchford has said that I'm not going to fuck around with you like Valve does with Half-Life 3 in regards to Borderlands 3.
Shots
I
fired.
knew that was going to get called out. Wow.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Exactly. I think that Gearbox has been burned. I mean, though I haven't forgotten about Aliens Colonial Marines yet.
Yeah,
or
that Duke Nukem was kind of a 1-2 punch of shitty games.
That was awful. They really took that on the chin.
Yeah, they have no right to be that cocky.
Right. I think they should eat some crow a little bit there.
Yeah. Yeah, show me a bad game that Valve has done.
I can't.
Give me one bad game that Valve has done.
No,
just
I
one.
Can't. I cannot.
I have nothing.
Yeah, I just think that I think that's a great move. Actually, I think people are and they're selling their Borderlands IP to Telltale.
Oh yeah, Telltale's doing a game
which is fine. Good. If someone really wants to explore that universe, I think Telltale's is the right choice to explore it. But,
that's weird, though. I mean, FPS to, point and click, choose your own adventure.
Yeah,
weird.
Does anyone actually care enough about the lore of Borderlands to explore a Telltale style game set in that universe?
I am. I'm curious enough.
That's all you really need to know. There's midgets that try to kill you, and there are billions of guns.
And vaults.
Yeah, okay.
Vaults and loots. Hey, did you guys hear that Amazon bought Double Helix Games?
Yep.
Amazon.
They're going to start making games.
They're going to make fighting games,
That's
apparently.
Speculative, yeah. Oh. And that was an acquisition that just kind of snagged it from under Microsoft. Because Microsoft was, I don't know. That's interesting. Amazon making games.
So we might get an Amazon-powered Killer Instinct.
I think we're going to get an Amazon console, is what they're thinking.
Oh, Jesus.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
And like 30 different iterations of it.
Yeah. Amazon console Fire, Amazon console,
HD,
e-ink version of. It's interesting, and there is some buzz, but it's definitely a wait and see. I didn't know Shiny was associated with the with Double Helix. I didn't know that they were part of that.
Huh.
Murder, Death, Kill. Remember that game?
Oh,
MBK?
do I ever?
Wouldn't that be an awesome remake?
You know what? I actually wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. MBK was
Jim. Earthworm Jim.
I'd definitely play that one for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting news this week, and tons of games coming out in March. Tons of games. I mean, I'm really excited.
Looks like the spring doldrums are starting to subside.
Yeah, the thaw is coming. So,
what's everyone been playing lately?
I'm still playing a lot of Bravely Default. I'm still in love with that game.
Cool.
Yep. Same here. Playing a lot of Bravely and just Steel Diver Sub Wars because Morse code.
It's free and it teaches you how to play.
Is getting a lot of use.
Why?
Yeah, I actually. Why? It's interesting. I sent my 3DS XL in for repair because it's got a loose hinge, and I got it back the next day. Like Nintendo's really on it. They actually just gave me a whole new system. But in the meantime, I picked up. Like I thought the repair might take longer, so I went on Craigslist and I got a semi-broken blue 3DS, the small one, for $30. $30. That's my new project. So I'm fixing this thing up. It's got a broken R trigger, but it's a $5 part. So
yeah.
So that's
very
my
good
new project. But I've been using it to play both Steel Diver and Bravely, and it's a neat little system. Smaller screens seems to have a much deeper 3D effect.
Really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that.
But anyway, this thing's getting a ton of use because Bravely Default, and between that and Steel Diver, that's all I've been playing lately.
Nice.
That's about it for me.
I've been playing a bit of Loadout, starting to get kind of Loadout burnout. It's fun, but I don't know. I'm not really compelled to want to keep playing it now. It was fun for a bit, and now it's boring.
Yeah, that one's kind of run its course for me too.
Yeah.
Guys,
sorry.
And now, thanks to Spencer, you son of a bitch, Rogue Legacy. I have been playing the hell out of that game.
I'm in the dark.
Rogue fucking Legacy, man. Seriously, fuck that game, but it's just so much fun, and it's like one more game. Okay, one more game. No, I got it this time. One more game. And
one
then
more
you start to
run. I'm going to get enough
realize-
gold for this last upgrade.
I know. And then you start to realize that I've just only been running the main castle. There's still the Maya. There's still like the Tower of the Forest, the Deep Pits of Hell. You have to complete all those in one run and beat the bosses in all those in one run in order to open the Golden Gate at the very beginning.
You don't have to do it all in one run, actually. The
really?
bosses stay dead, yeah.
Oh, thank
So you're
fuck.
good.
They're replaced by the recent update changed that you can actually fight like super duper versions of them if you go back to the boss rooms.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, later on
Do you get more
I don't
loots?
know what the benefit to that is. I surprised the shit out of me. I went back to one of the boss rooms and there was like a super boss there. And you don't fight him with your character, and if you lose you just get punted back out into the dungeon.
That's all right.
Huh.
Yeah, it's a little weird. But
did you unlock the Architect?
Yeah.
It might be why.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Architect's always there, but no, this is different. Like after you beat a boss, you go back to the boss's room in whatever section you're in, and you'll fight like a super version of that boss with a character that isn't your character, like a placeholder character.
Yeah, but I think they're doing that, or they did that to tie it into the Architect, to be able to just kind of practice, basically.
Right.
I think, maybe. I could be totally wrong. Yeah. What have you been playing, Brian?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. I noticed you like the Spelunky.
I've been trying to get better at Spelunky for so long now. I've got like 40 hours in that game, and I'm still so bad at it. Like,
is that a game that anybody really gets good at, though?
Oh yeah.
I can't even reliably get out of the mine still. I mean, I get to the jungle and I just flail. Yeah, I can't reliably get to the ice caves yet. I can still get to the jungle most times, but I can't get through it. And something like this game, when I was playing Isaac for really heavily, it was like I could feel myself getting better at it, and I'm just not feeling that with this game.
Is it a one-run game? Like, you have to finish it, you have to do everything in one fucking run?
You can unlock shortcuts, but you don't get on leaderboards and you don't get achievements if you use shortcuts.
Yeah. That just sounds like... It sounds like whoever developed that game hates people. Yeah,
I'm getting that feeling now, too.
And whoever plays it just is gluttons for punishment.
Yep. Yeah, that's me. So, yeah, it's been an uphill battle with that game. I tried and failed to play a bit of Dark Souls 2 or Dark Souls on the PC, but the PC port of that is so broken. It's just like I spent a couple hours working on it trying to get it to run, and it crashes constantly for me. I'm on Windows 8, and apparently everybody's having problems with it.
Huh. Have you tried a DS Tool?
Yes, I have. I have tried that. It's still, I'm running it in Windows compatibility mode. I've tried a bunch of different fixes. It just refuses to run, and it's really getting a bit frustrating. I wanted to dive into that one so that I could, have a bit of preparation for Dark Souls 2. But looks like I'm gonna have to go back to the PS3 if I want to do that, which sucks because I've got the Prepared Eye edition on the PC, which has all the DLC in it, and I don't have the DLC on the PS3. So
lame.
Yeah, I'm going to keep trying to get that one to work, but we'll see. Right now, from what I'm reading on the forums, Windows 8 support for that game is pretty much non-existent, so yeah, it sucks. And that's pretty much it for me.
Anything else you guys want to talk about real quick?
Nah.
Kickstarter got hacked.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, but apparently they've done a pretty good job of SHA for insulting your passwords, so nothing like that has been compromised. And Amazon backs the credit cards, so they confirm that no credit card information has been seized, but
information, phone numbers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, so let the social engineering begin, right?
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of that, I got a call tonight, and I was telling Dan this. I got a call from an Indian area code telling me that it was Windows technical support.
Oh yeah, those calls are time a dozen, man. I mean,
I was like,
my dad fucks with them, and he's just kind of like, I don't have a computer. And they're like, no, it says right here, we have your name, your address, your postal code, and it says that you have a computer and that it's causing problems and blah blah blah. So my dad's like, yeah, go away.
Yeah, my favorite part was the spiel where they said we've been receiving reports that your computer may be having errors that you are unaware of, and I was like, I just kind of stopped for a second. I'm like, do you find this approach generally tends to work fairly often for you? And she just stopped, and I was like, you're telling me you're from Windows technical support? She's like, absolutely, and I was like, no, you're not. I was like, you know what? Whatever list you got me on, take it off right now, because the next time you call me, I'm reporting it. Please, click, hang up right away.
Good Lord.
And I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, I'd be amazed. I mean, you hear stories about people fucking them back, right? Like,
right.
Say, no, I'm from Microsoft and you're in trouble.
See, I want to get a call like that because I would basically put on my tech support voice and I would then start to troubleshoot them. And they would probably get horribly confused. And what version of Windows are you running? I'm going to need you to click on Start and then Run.
Yeah. CMD, type in format C/S form.
Yeah.
Perfect. And can I also have your credit card number and the 3-digit PIN on the back? Excellent. That's just great. And, yeah.
Too funny, man. All right, let's call it there. Thanks, everybody, for another great show, and we'll see you again next week.
Good night.
Bye.